Hey everyone, it's 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night. And where else would I be but here with you? DJ Stutz here with Little Hearts Academy USA and the Imperfect Heroes podcast. And as we get started today, I just want to tell you about a really cool book. So everyone says the kids don't come with an owner's manual. Well, guess what? August 1st, there was published the Parenting Owner's Manual. And so what they did is they took 33 different experts from around the world and invited them to contribute to this book. And guess who's in it? Yes, I am chapter 3. What's fun is they also have some kids that they talked to, and the kids gave their ideas and thoughts and about parenting and living in a family, and that's in there too. So if you go to Amazon and you just go to it's the Parenting Owner's Manual, you can order that and get in on that. And so pretty fun, pretty fun. We're getting ever closer to getting my first children's book published, and so that's going to be out soon. Wait for details on that. It's a fun book. I think it is. Of course I do. I wouldn't have written it if I didn't, right? Okay. Well, today we are talking about those twitches and tics that our kids can get, and sometimes those um, continue on into adulthood. Now, when I first heard about this, because I have a brother with Tourette's, and so I've always associated those twitches and the tics. He nods his head a lot, he blinks a lot, and so I always associated that with Tourette's, and it's not always Tourette's. Isn't that a surprise? There are evidently a lot of reasons for kids to have some of those tics and twitches, and sometimes they will go away. Sometimes we can do things to help, uh, um, bring them down. And so it's not happening quite so often. It's a little warm in my room. I'm gonna pull my hair up. And so, anyway, we talked a lot about all of that. So my guest this week is Dr. Piper Gibson, and she has a child with a tic disorder, not Tourette's. And so we had a great time talking about some brand new information for me. I had no idea. So if you're a parent and you're looking to kind of decode that whole mysterious fidgeting and squiggling and repetitive behaviors, um, this might be the episode that you need to listen to. And so I want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Piper Gibson. So she is a doctor of, she has this, listen to this. She's a doctor of functional medicine. She is a doctor of advanced holistic nutrition. She is a traditional neuropathic doctor, and she is a board certified doctor on natural medicine. So, woo! Talk about a little education there. Anyway, she helps like parents who are scared and frustrated and maybe a little overwhelmed with all of the stuff that's going on with this, and she helps parents get the tools and the education that they need so that they can start reducing their kids' tic disorder symptoms. There we are, through natural benefits or methods. And she also arms you with the right questions to ask, who to talk to, what are certain specialists that you might not have heard of or you don't know of that you can go to over just the general pediatrician thing. So it's kind of an interesting thing to talk about and to have some good information on. Like I said, I always think of it as Tourette's or maybe repetitive behavior. You might think, oh, maybe that's um, autism spectrum. I don't know. It could be a ton of things and even more than I thought. So here we are. So one of the things that Dr. Gibson talks about, her name's Piper. I love that name. Anyway, one of the things she talks about is that there are 4 key things that you can look at in your home if your child is dealing with a tic disorder, um, or showing some of those signs. There's some things that you can do to reduce those, and there's 4 things that you need to look at in your home. So one of the things is that you need to see what is going on in my environment. And so this can be emotional, as well as what's going on. So what kind of plants are they um, providing more allergy symptoms? Because that can set off tick symptoms as well. And so you're going to want to look at what's going on, but then you're also going to want to look at the environment. So is there a lot of stress? Is there a lot of anger? Maybe there might be some things going on at school with your kiddo, and they're stressing out over it, and that's how their body is responding to it. And so you're going to want to really look at the environment, both physical environment as well as the emotional environment. And so you might want to go and talk to the teacher and get some information from there. Or even the principal, too, can share a lot of information on your kid. Also, you might want to be aware of some of the plants and things that are around the school that might be adding to allergy issues. Doesn't mean they have to cut down a tree. They're not going to do that for you, just letting you know. They're not going to cut down a tree. But you can have certain medications though that can help, and there are a lot of holistic and natural things that you can do to mediate some of those allergy things too as well. But really pay attention to the emotional thing that's out there, because that can really set things off. So something to think about. The second one that we talked about was, what are the products that you're using to clean your house with? So there are a ton of products that are out there that are not good for us, right? And then there's a bunch of different companies and organizations, products out there that are good for the environment, but you have to do your homework to really look and see what's going on there. And so Dr. Gibson in the podcast gives you some of the things to look for when you're choosing a product and maybe a company that you're going to support. I'm not going to mention any of them because there's several, and I don't want to, you know, show preference to any one of them. But there are ways that you can get products to clean your house and do a good job with it, get rid of the germs, whatever, but it's not using things like bleach, right? Those are not good for you. So let's keep going. What are you cooking on? And so that surprised me when we were talking. Things, like Teflon. Um, we all love Teflon, don't we? But when you scrape it up, those little particles it's a type of a plastic that's there that works, and it can get in the food, and then your kids ingest it, you ingest it, and those actually contribute to um, tic disorder and a bunch of other disorders on top of it. It's not just that one. That can really contribute to a lot of things. And so think about your cooking surfaces and uh, what you can do to get to something that's more natural. And so that's another thing that we talk about in the podcast are some of the alternatives that you can use from Teflon to make sure that you're cooking on things that aren't going to get into your kid's system and actually um, make not only just tics worse, but it will also make other things, other disorders. It can exacerbate them, and it can actually even create them. So you want to really pay attention to those things. Another thing is, what are you storing your food in? And so what is it, the BPE, whatever, that's in plastics, and some of the containers that we use. So you're going to want to look for, certain labeling that makes sure that you're storing your food into containers that not only is going to keep your food fresh, because that's why we put them in there, right? Um, but it's also going to make sure that we're not contributing to any other issues that might be going on with our kids' health and our health, to be quite honest, too. So one of the best ways to figure out what really is going on is through something called functional lab testing. And so this is something that you can ask your doctor to do. And depending, like Dr. Gibson knows how to do it. She's talking about all of those things, but it's giving you a better guide for what is truly going on with your kiddo, um, beyond just the normal regular testing that is going on. So that's something to keep in mind, and you can ask for that. It's called, wait, let me get it right, functional lab testing. Okay, so there you are for that one. And then, um, so we're talking about also our food sources. And this is something that I'm learning a lot more about, so especially since I moved out to the country. Um, as I sit and listen, I've had, some of the new neighbors. We've gone to lunch with the ladies, and I listen to them talking. So there's a lot of cattle farmers. I hear moos all day long, and in the morning and into the evening, we hear moose. A lot of cattle around here. There's also a lot of wheat farmers, of course, potatoes. We live in Idaho, and so there's also a lot of other food sources that are grown here. And so it was interesting as I was listening one time that we were out to lunch, and they were talking about all of the things that they're putting into beef now and injecting the cows with different hormones, and they're actually injecting some of the beef that we're eating with the mRNA. I think that's it. Anyway, with that's in the vaccine that, we don't know a lot about it. And in fact, the doctor that created all of that said it's not being used correctly. So I don't know, do some research on it, but you really want to get as close to the source of where your food is coming from as you can. Stay away from all of the prepackaged and processed foods. Oh, have we ever heard this before? Right? And so, pay attention and support your local farmers market. And then even grow your own if you can. And even if you have, you're in an apartment with a balcony, there are things that you can grow to supplement your food, and then what's in there. There's a lot of pesticides and things that are being used to control herbicides, even to control weeds, and so that it builds up a bigger crop. So you might want to look into growing as much of your own food as you can. We've planted, and it's fun watching my garden grow, and it's our first garden here, but so far it's looking good. So, and another thing is, when you do that, when you're growing your own food, you are actually able to engage your kids, and they see where food comes. They see it. They helped grow it. And the chances, if they helped grow it, the chances of them actually eating it increase significantly. Yay! So you might want to think of that, and make it a science project and talk about what do we need to do to remediate the soil. So that's one of the things that I'm learning about too up here, is checking your soil for what nutrients it has and what it's needing, what it's lacking. And so you can buy a soil tester for $30 on Amazon, and you just stick it in and it runs their little test, and it tells you what you are needing to add to the soil to make sure that your fruits and vegetables are gathering the right nutrients from the soil to give you the nutrition that you need. And so it's pretty fun. And it's a nice way to even talk about foods that grow under the ground, foods that grow above the ground, foods that have vines, all of those things. You can make it into such a great science project, and you can make a beautiful yard with edible decorations. So that's pretty cool. All right, so the next thing that we wanted to talk about um ah is it's interesting because she came to, in fact, she added on to her doctorates and stuff, got those extra degrees because she had a child that was dealing with it. And she was having a hard time getting the right answers, finding the right people. And she was a doctor, right? And so she reached out, as I often happens, I am finding with doctors who are gaining more education and reaching out because they have a family member that is dealing with something. And so she is one of those. And so she's able to talk from a parent's perspective as well as a doctor's perspective, right? And so that's really cool. she has both of those. And so she's able to talk to you about maybe some of these misconceptions that are out there. She can have real conversations with you because she's done it as a mom. And she really supports those natural approaches to tic disorders. And so she's just great to listen to and to talk to. She also has a book that she's written about tics. I think it Tic Talks is what it's called. And but if you go to the web or go to the podcast, down in the show notes, all of that information is there. And so we're also on YouTube. It's the Little Hearts Academy USA. I almost said the .com. Little Hearts Academy USA channel on YouTube. If you just do a search for DJ Stutz, you're going to find it as well. We're also on Rumble, and so it's Imperfect Heroes on Rumble. Again, if you just do a search for DJ Stutz, you're going to find us. So there we are, and you can get all that information on the show notes on all of those platforms, and you just click, and there you go. So that's pretty cool. And then next week, I have a guest, Adele Bernard, and she specializes in helping parents go through those transitions. Well, and she helps even more than parents. She helps people with transitions. But specifically in our conversation, we talked about all of the transitions that parents make as their children grow, as even they go from being a single person to a married person to a parent, right? And then, the parent of a baby is very different than being the parent of a toddler. So we talk about all of those transitions in our lives and how we can move forward and help our children through their transitions as well. And so it's a really cool episode next week. But this week, we're all about tics. Oh, one other thing I wanted to tell you is that one of my favorite book series is called Michael They. And the main character, and there's the 9th book is coming out soon, but the main character has Tourette's. He's a kid in high school and he's just trying to figure out life, and he has Tourette's along with some other superhuman powers, which makes it all interesting. But if you're interested, it's Michael They, and it's by Richard Paul Evans is the author. Again, Amazon's a great place to find that, but so is Barnes and Noble. His books are everywhere. He's a very well-known author. So maybe that's something that can help you if you have a child with tics, and especially a teenager. That might be a book that they'd really relate to. So there you go. So I'm excited to see you again, and I've got to bump over to Instagram to do my live there. So until next week, let's find joy in parenting. Bye, guys.